Laheating, hello everyone and welcome to my Queer channel. I'm your host Queer-chan, and today, after long last, we are finally getting back to my series of reviews featuring the variety of Neimoidian and Duros figures from Hasbro. Now what we're going to have a look at today is, I believe, the only Neimoidian that has ever been made as part of a multi-pack. So I thought that, rather than just focusing on the figure from that pack, I would do the pack in its entirety. And that, of course, is the second Geonosian War Room pack from the 2003 Saga collection. Can't promise Shu Mai will stay up, so I'll just pose her like that. Now, as I said, this is one half of what made up a total of 6 figures, and also comes with half a table. What made up 6 figures and, in its entirety, 1 table. Of course, featuring the separatist leaders from the Geonosian War Room scene from Attack of the Clones. Funnily enough, there was actually a third part to that set. There was a Wat Tambor figure sold separately that came with a single sort of control panel and a hologram of a, what are they called? Hard Cell ship, which belonged to the Techno Union. I may do those other 2 sets at some point in the future, and possibly a review of the War Room scene in its entirety. But of course today we're just going to focus on this set. Now, I think this is actually the nicer of the 2 sets. As I say, I do have both of them. The first one I actually got at Celebration 4, funnily enough. I, at the time, was actually more interested in getting the San Hill figure than I was in getting the Nute Gunray figure. This Nute figure was actually one of my more, well, relatively speaking, recent Neimoidian and Duros figure acquisitions. So we'll have a look at him first. I'm just going to move Shu Mai over here because I cannot promise that she will stay upright. Insert your own joke here. Right, now as you can see, this bears quite a lot of similarity to the 1998-99 Phantom Menace Nute Gunray, which, as I said in a previous video, I thought was one of the nicest figures ever released in terms of detail. Now, if you actually look inside the figure, the inside is just a cut and paste episode 1 Nute Gunray. In fact, the copyright, the 1998 copyright year, is actually on the bottom of the boot. And that's not a problem, because, as I said, it was a nice figure, it was nicely detailed and very accurate, and in this case, certainly, the robes were so similar in episode 2 that it makes perfect sense to simply just reuse that part of the episode 1 Nute Gunray. The outer robe is a brand new mould. I don't have the original figure to compare with me, but take my word on it. It's got much nicer moulding at the bottom, so you can see the material bunching up together. You even got some differentiation here between the outer part of the material and the inside part of the material, which is darker. Nice detailing on the material itself, more or less the same detail from the episode 1 Nute Gunray. And of course the mantelpiece is a completely new mould. It has this sort of diamond design on it, which actually, go do this in your spare time. Look at a picture of episode 2 Nute Gunray and you will see that that diamond design is actually his hat decorations from episode 1 sort of combined. He had these sort of triangle decorations on the side of his hat, and if you put them, together at their widest point, they form this. So I actually thought that was a very cool detail that they've captured very well on this. And finally, the head mould is brand new, I believe. It draws on a lot of similarities from the episode 1, but it is very obviously, in my opinion, a brand new mould. It is even nicer, if it can be believed, than the episode 1 Nute Gunray. It's got more detail to it, it's got much better weathering, even nicer eyes, brand new headgear which is textured and everything. The only downside on mine is that they've painted one of his eyes very, very strangely, so it looks like he's got a bit of a lazy eye. Other than that though, absolutely superb figure. In some ways, it's even better than the episode 1 Nute Gunray. My only complaint about the figure itself, and not about my particular figure, is the lack of articulation. The Saga collection, the 2002-2003 one, was when they started to put more and more articulation on figures, eventually sort of levelling out around 2009 to 2012 with the sort of standard 12 or 13 before they dropped back to 5 again. It's acceptable in terms of time period to only have as many articulation points as the episode 1 Nute Gunray. I would have preferred a bit more, but he doesn't move that much anyway, and it is such a nicely made figure, even more so than the episode 1 Nute Gunray, that, I mean, if you were to get this set for one figure, it would have to be him. Even if you just got one figure from this set, Nute Gunray. I'm trying not to be biased, but I mean, if you recall from my my Lot Dodd review, he was part of the same line of figures. I think he was 2002 rather than 2003, but if you remember correctly, I said that the weathering on him was terrible. I mean, it was literally just a spray paint blast to the face, and his eyes weren't nicely painted even in the slightest. Particularly not compared to his test shot figure. This is such an improvement over that. I don't know what caused them to change their minds. You know, they could have gone the same way with this figure, but I'm very glad they didn't. They've weathered him so nicely, he's so detailed. Wholeheartedly recommend getting him. He is easily one of the nicest Neimoidian figures. Next up, we're going to do Shu Mai, because again, I cannot promise she'll stand up without support. Again, another very nice figure, just unfortunately lacking in articulation. Those of you who remember the Revenge of the Sith line, they actually used Shu Mai's mould to make her assistant Cat Mean. I do have that figure. I may go over it at a later date if I do the Separatists as a whole. Very, very nice moulding and detailing on the bottom of her robe, so you can see it bunched up where her feet are. Nice creases along her back and her sleeve. Nice detailing and weathering on her hat. Good facial details. Not as much weathering on the face, but that can be overlooked. The only downside again to my figure is that her head pops off so easily. But again, I think that is just a defect with my particular figure, because my Cat Mean figure does not have the same problem. Her head stays on perfectly well. But as I say, almost no articulation, 3 points, so even less than what Nute Gunray has. All in all, though, I mean, a figure that doesn't necessarily need that much posability. It would have been nice, but she doesn't need it, and I think it probably would have been a bit strange to keep, you know, the detailing on her robes while giving her this, you know, these very strange feet articulation points. So, nicely done. Not as nice as Nute Gunray in my opinion. And then finally, we've got Passel Argente, who was also reused in the Revenge of the Sith line to make himself. We've never had a Denaria key figure, unfortunately. Passel Argente would be a good figure to base her on. I do not have the second Passel Argente figure. That is one I will have to get at some point. As with the other two, just in general with these sets as a whole, very, very nice moulding, nice detail and texture on the robes, on the hood, nice weathering at the bottom here, and as you can see, very, very cleanly painted, exceptionally cleanly painted, on this figure at least. The only not so cleanly painted area is unfortunately his face. It looks alright from a distance, but up close there is just blue and green and orange every which direction. The face mould itself is alright though. It bears an alright likeness. He's got a good expression, a sort of conniving, sneaky expression, which is, you know, very fitting. Very strange articulation though. More than Shu Mai, but I don't think quite as much as Nute. He's got no head articulation, no waist, but shoulders and this very odd elbow articulation. So you can make him look as though he's scheming or as though he doesn't know and is confused. I don't know. But beyond that, and beyond the paintwork, still a very nice figure. Very, very good detail. I mean, levels of detail we just don't see, in my opinion, on the Black Series at the moment. Ignoring, of course, the 6-inch Black Series, which, in my opinion, are great. Maybe not worth, you know, as much as they're charging for them, but they're still a great set of figures. But that's something for a later date. No, this is a remnant of a time when we got such a huge variety of characters, and they were just most of them just so detailed and nicely made. Absolutely fantastic set. Even nicer than the other Geonosian War Room set. I wholeheartedly recommend having both of them even as part of your collection. And if not the whole set, certainly just Nute. As I've said several times, he is even nicer, in my opinion, than the episode 1 Nute Gunray. Now, before I finish up, I just want to show you the Geonosian War Room table. Each Geonosian War Room set comes with half a table. I've got the other half here, so I'll be able to show you it in its entirety. Each half is basically just the other half mirrored and flipped upside down, so you do actually have a good variety of detail here. You've got nicely sculpted little, what are they called? ATTEs, lots of little dots representing clones and droids around, some spider droids, and of course the Republic gunships flying in. And I have to say, I actually do kind of like how they've moulded the stand for them yellow, because if you remember in the film, I know it came from above rather than from below, but the way the room was sort of dusty and foggy, it looked, you could see like the lights from where the projectors were you know, projecting the models. It was just a very cool effect, in my opinion, and I like how they've kind of reproduced it on the table. If there's one complaint I have about the table, is that it is actually very small. If you remember correctly in the film, the table was massive, took up most of a room. If this table was actual size, it probably would have taken up most, if not all, of my little desk here. Or table, rather. So it's an alright sacrifice. I mean, they have captured the detail incredibly well. I have posed the figures with it and taken some photos, and they do fit nicely around the table. It gets a little bit crowded, but the nice thing about it is that I've also discovered that if you're looking for a little bit more accuracy, you can actually play a bit with perspective, as I am doing now. I'm just going to pose them there. And it does look rather a bit more like the film in terms of size, although I'm not sure the table was that low to the ground if you look at it compared to Nute Gunray. But either way, a nice little detail from the film. We don't get, you know, details and accessories like this anymore, so very much appreciated. I've seen it in some various dioramas and it does look fantastic. I have even seen people who have managed to get the table to light up somehow, so that was exceptionally impressive. Again, just a fantastic set, you know, multi-pack of figures. Wholeheartedly recommend finding them if you can, and again, if not the set, just Nute Gunray. He looks fantastic on his own or as part of the Separatist leaders. Either way, just very nicely made figures. They could benefit from some articulation, but again, given when they were made, these figures are 13 years old, if you can believe it. Given when they were made, that can be excused and overlooked for how detailed they are. They could also figure out how to make Shu Mai stand up a little bit better. My one absolutely will not do it. I think I just have a defective Shu Mai altogether. Her head won't stand and she won't stand up, and yet Catmean has neither of these problems. So either they improved the mould or I've just got a defective figure. But either way, beside the point, this is one of my favourite sets. The Nute is one of my favourite Neimoidian figures, and I have no doubt that it would be one of yours as well, should you manage to obtain it for your collection. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Plenty more videos to come after that ridiculous 2-month break I took. For now though, thank you very much indeed. I've been Quair Chan, you've been amazing, and may the Force and Neimoidians be with you.